Hello. Hello. How are you doing? You guys feeling good? Let me hear you. That's great. I mean, you guys are packed in here, all up there, all around. Wow. Hey, I see you guys. I see you. I have to tell you, I'm amazed at your presence here. I mean, you guys are in all the hotels, everywhere I look, in all the restaurants. I see the blue coats, and I'm like, yes, I love it. I mean, that would have been so fun for me to be in high school and to make a trip like this. Especially, I see all the pretty girls out there. You guys have nice hair. I've noticed that. You do. I mean, you guys have some beautiful hair and the handsome guys, so have fun, but be good, okay? Be good now. Don't be hooking up. I know the parents are here. The parents are here and the adults are here as well. That's the mother inside of me. Speaking about being a mother, I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I have to be honest with you, sometimes I get anxiety when I think about the future of our world. You know, with all the things that are going on in the world. I don't have to get into that. You guys know, and I'm like, wow, what's the world gonna be like when my kids get older? It's kind of scary. But the more I read about the FFA and the wonderful work that you guys are doing and that they're cultivating leaders for the future and you guys know that you can make a difference, that makes me feel good. So thank you so much. I just want to say from me to you, thank you so much. Yes, because as you know, we need leaders more now than ever. So thank you. So do you guys know who Muhammad Ali is? I kind of figured you did, but you know, I don't like to assume. So, you know, anyone who might not know who he is the GOAT, the greatest of all times. That's where that term came from, by the way, from my dad. He's known to be one of the greatest boxers of all times, and he's a global humanitarian around the world for all the great things that he's done. So, do you guys believe in destiny? I do. I do now. Especially, you know, ever since I saw this news clipping of me when I was a child with my father holding me. I'm trying to change, there it is. That's me as a baby. My father was holding me, and as you can see, it says the next champ with a question mark. Of course, I had to put the exclamation on that question. But I'm the youngest of 9 kids. My dad has 9 children, I'm his youngest girl, and I'm the only one to become a professional boxer. So, growing up, yes, nobody knew. Thank you. Thank you. That's another photo of me and my dad. That's a more up-close photo I wanted to see. That was kind of cute, right? He had no idea that I was going to grow up and start knocking people out, you know, as I got older. And then that's a photo of me, I'm the smaller one in the blue, with my sister Hannah. Now, that's my only full sister from we have both the same parents. Now, she's Dad's favorite. A lot of people think that it would be me, that I was Daddy's girl because I'm the boxer, but actually, that's not the case at all. So like I said, we have, you know, I forgot about it. Now, you gotta love that Afro picture. I mean, I just threw that in there because I just love that picture. My mom put that bow in my hair, and it just looks like a piece of lint, right? But it's actually a bow. I don't know, it did something, though. I think it's kind of cute. But I always have to include that. So that's a photo. That's me in the front in the black with the rest of my brothers and sisters. The only one that's missing is my brother Assad, who my father later adopted. So I'm the youngest of my father's natural children, only one to become a fighter. And people assume that I started boxing because I simply wanted to be like my dad. You know, maybe I was in the gym with him when he was training, and I said, I want to be like Dad. But actually, that's not the case at all. So as I grew up, my parents divorced, and I lived with my mother, and I said, you know what, Mom, I want to be independent. I want to, you know, move out the house when I'm 18, and she used to be like, yeah, Layla, whatever, you know, and then I said, okay, I'm going to do some research, because I need to pay my own bills, I need to go to school full-time, and make money, right? So I started going to school for manicuring, because I saw that I could get a manicuring license. Now, I was always very ambitious, so after high school, I took it upon myself to take the city bus, public transportation, across town, to cosmetology school, eventually got my license to become a manicurist. And by the time I was 18, I moved out of the house, had my own clientele, eventually started my own business called Laila's Nail Studio. And I actually have a photo of me at the nail salon, like, yep, did it, made it. So I had a successful business, living on my own, paying my own rent, because I was always the one that was like, I don't want Daddy to take care of me, I'm gonna do my own thing. So I was very strong-minded. So that's at the time when I was about 18, and I went to a friend's house to watch a fight, and I was watching Mike Tyson. You guys know who Mike Tyson is? Okay, you guys know. So, you guys are young, so sometimes I'm not sure, but Mike Tyson was like in his prime at the time. So I went to go watch a Mike Tyson fight. Now, I wasn't a big boxing fan, even though my father was Muhammad Ali. So I'm watching this big fight like everybody else. We got our popcorn, our soda, we're ready to watch the fight. Next thing I know, these women come into the ring. And I was like, what is this? What's going on? Like, what's happening? I didn't know women's boxing even existed. So I was totally keyed in to the TV, amazed. And these women get in the ring, they start slugging it out, and they got like bloody noses. I actually have a photo of the first fight. That's what I saw. Blood all over the place. This is the girl in the pink was winning the fight. And I was like, I want to do that. That just looks like it's right up my alley. And my best friend was there, and she said, yeah, you could do it. And her dad was like, Layla, you're crazy. Those girls will take your head off. What are you talking about? I totally zoned him out and just couldn't believe that I didn't know that women boxed. Now, I was a little bit of a fighter before I became a professional fighter, got in a little trouble. That's why I'm so impressed with you guys, because I was like totally wouldn't have been in the FFA, like if I was like in high school, because I was just kind of going down the wrong path. So when I saw women's boxing, something in me connected. Obviously, it's in my DNA too. So when I saw it, I said, I want to do that. But by the time I went home, that's when the fear set in. I heard this gentleman before me talking about fear and talking about doubt, right? So I had that doubt, like, I have this plan to go to school full time. I'm going to City College. I'm planning to transfer to the University of Southern California, get my, business degree, open nail salons all over the country. That was my plan. And I was a planner. So for me, I was like, well, what's everyone gonna say? I've never, ever had an interest in boxing before. How can I do it? My father being famous growing up, I never wanted to be famous, so that was an inner conflict that I had to deal with. So it took me about a year of contemplation, of just thinking about this seed that had been planted. And then I decided one day that I wanted to go for it. Now, at the time, like I said, Christy Martin was the most famous woman in boxing. Now, the time that I saw boxing was the first time that a lot of people saw boxing. So the world just really didn't know about women's boxing. This was the first female televised fight on a major undercard for people to see her. So I told one of my clients that I wanted to box. And she said, oh, I have a boxing trainer. And I said, you do? I didn't ask my dad because, remember me, I'm that independent one that doesn't want to ask dad for help. So I said, let me go to the gym. Let me figure out if this is something I actually want to do, because I already knew there would be a lot of pressure on me. My father had a legacy. I didn't want to embarrass him. So I said, let me just see if this is what I want to do. So I went to the gym. I started training and instantly fell in love with it. So after school and after work, 6 days a week, I started going to the boxing gym, working out. And even though it was hard, I didn't care. I loved it. I couldn't wait to get there and work on my jab, work on my right hand, work on my uppercut, and then finally get into the ring and actually spar. That's what you call when you get into the ring and actually fight and train. And trust me, I've seen a lot of people come through the gym saying they want to fight, and the first thing they'll do is put you in the ring and see what happens when you actually get hit. You're either going to get mad and want to hit somebody back, or you're going to want to turn your back and get out of the ring. Well, I got mad, and I was like, it got around quick that I was kind of doing really well, and then all of a sudden, it got around that I was training. So one thing that you have to do as a fighter is you have to make weight. You have to be in a certain weight class. So for me, I had to figure out what weight class was I going to be in. And as you can see on the left, that's the only photo I can find. Sorry, why do I have kitten ears on? Because that was a Halloween photo. But at the time, I was about 30 pounds heavier than I needed to be in the weight class that I ended up being in, to be at my strongest and to be fit. And as you can see, that was a weigh-in. You always have to weigh in before a fight. And that was another photo just to show you the difference of maybe 6 to 8 months of just training and eating right and doing all of that. And as I mentioned, training was hard, but I loved it. So I absolutely knew this is what I wanted to do. So the news got around that Muhammad Ali's daughter is in the boxing gym. News travels quick. Got back to my dad. So my dad comes in town because he lived in a different state, and he says, Layla, I hear you're boxing. And I was like, yeah, Dad, it's true. So he sat me down to have a conversation, and he knew that he couldn't talk me out of it, so he tried to talk me out of it indirectly and use reverse psychology on me. So he says, well, the whole world's going to be watching you. What are you going to do, if they're judging you. And I said, Dad, I'm ready for that. I can handle it. And he said, okay, well, what if you get knocked down, in the ring? I said, well, you got knocked down before. I'm going to get back up just like you did. And he says, well, what if you get knocked out? And I was like, now that's not going to happen. But if it does, then I'm going to ask for a rematch. So then he thought about it for a while. So his line of questioning just wasn't working. And then finally, he started to say, well, women have breasts. You're not supposed to be fighting. And I said, Dad, we wear chest protection just like men wear cup protection. So we were tit for tat. Everything he said, I had something for him. I was like, what you got? So finally, he said what was really on his mind. He said, it's not a woman's sport. It's a man's sport. It's not for you to do. It's too hard. So me being me, I stayed cool and just said, Dad, I understand, how you feel about it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I want to pause right there because as I've gotten older and now my dad has passed, and obviously I've reflected on a lot of the conversations that we've had, and I think about just how he started boxing and what his story was and how he must have felt in that moment. And a lot of you won't even probably be able to connect with this because you don't have children yet and you're not, at that stage. But my father started boxing similar. He wasn't an athlete, just like I'm not an athlete. But what happened when he was 12 years old in his neighborhood in Louisville, Kentucky. Anyone here from Louisville? Nobody? Come on. Nobody? Okay. Somebody. Anyone here from California? I'm from California. All right. All right, Cali, represent. So my dad was 12 years old. Someone in his neighborhood stole his bike. He got really mad, and he went to one of the policemen. He said, somebody stole my bike, and I'm going to beat them up. I'm going to get them. And the policeman said, well, do you know how to fight? And he said, no, I don't. Well, that policeman happened to be an amateur trainer for a local boxing gym. And he said, well, you need to come in the gym and learn how to fight. And that's how my dad ended up going to the boxing gym to train, because his intention was to go get these guys that stole his bike. But then he fell in love with boxing, and he found his talent. So that was his destiny, and he was fast. He had the speed, he had agility, he had charisma. So then he went on to have an amateur career, and eventually went to the Olympics and won gold for the United States. At 18, he came back with his gold medal around his neck. And at the time, we still had racism and segregation, where it would say, for whites only, he couldn't go eat in certain restaurants. So he thought, because he fought for his country, I'm going to come back and I'm going to change everything for all the black people. I'm the champ now, so I can go eat in these restaurants and everyone else can come with me. But then when he came back, he saw nothing had changed. So he actually took his medal and said, this means nothing, and threw it into the river. And that's a documented story that you guys can read up on, or some of you may already know it. But at that moment, that's when my dad pretty much decided that he was going to fight for something deeper than just being able to say he's a champion, being able to say, he was a winner and making a lot of money. He wanted to change the world. And he understood that when you're a winner, when you're the champ, when you have a lot of money, when you have the Rolls Royce, when you have the Rolex, that's when people want to listen to you. People naturally want to listen to you when you're successful, and they measure success on the things that you have sometimes. So that's the things I grew up listening to when I was a kid, the importance of why he did certain things. So my father now goes and becomes a world champion, okay? And he's like the man. Anywhere you go in the world, they know and love Muhammad Ali. Then they tried to enlist him in the Vietnam War, and he refused due to his religious beliefs. And then he got stripped of his titles. He got stripped of everything, couldn't make money. Got sentenced to 5 years in jail, which later got overturned by Supreme Court. But he also ended up fighting battles, which a lot of people conclude that might have caused his Parkinson's, which ultimately killed him. So I say that to say that here's your daughter sitting in front of you with all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into his career and all that was connected to, and here I am, your baby girl, who doesn't know anything about what she's about to get into, is telling you she wants to box. Of course you're going to say don't do it. It was fear, and of course he had never seen women box before, so he really believed that I couldn't do it. So I have a different way of looking at it now, but at that time I had to do what was in my heart. Even if I would have thought of that back then, I would have been like, well, that's great, but I'm still going to do my thing, because we all have to live our lives. So I said, I'm going to do it, Dad. So I went and made my public announcement, and went on Good Morning America. Sorry, that's the day I had that conversation with my dad, and you can see we were looking really serious. Look at his face. He was really trying to talk me out of it. So next thing I did was I went on Good Morning America and told the world that I was going to box, and that's when the floodgates opened, everything that I had already mentally prepared myself for, all of the, you're too pretty to box. I mean, I can tell you how many times I've heard that. You know, women don't box, women can't fight. Then, of course, the one that really annoyed me the most was, is this a publicity stunt? You know, you must want to be an actress or a model, and maybe you're using boxing as a platform, and that wasn't the case at all. So I was like a very young girl, and all I wanted to do was box. So then I kind of had this really tough exterior, and I felt like I always had to prove myself, right? And I remember writing my first book, Reach, Finding Strength, Spirit, and Personal Power, which I'm trying to show you. And that's a memoir that I wrote back then when I was about 23 years old, actually, that just talks about a lot of the adversity that I faced, which I don't have time to get into here with you. You know, when my parents divorced, I had a really dysfunctional childhood with my mom and her ex-husband, and a lot of anger inside of me that made me want to be a fighter in the first place. I encourage you guys to read that book. It's available on Amazon. You can check it out. So I went ahead and told the world that I was going to fight, and everybody was just like, what's going to happen? You know, what's she going to do? You know, women, you know, they had never seen women fighting really before. So I remember my pro debut, I had 80 different news media people there. Now, even though I wasn't fighting on television, because I didn't have an amateur career, so this was going to be my first fight ever. There was no women's boxing in the Olympics back then. There is now. But when I started fighting, women's boxing was not in the Olympics. So I went on and went pro. So I had 80 different news media there. They were ready to report what happened, so it might as well have been on TV. My dad was in the front row, and they were like, what's she going to do? Well, I knocked the girl out in 54 seconds. Thank you. That's right. So that was the beginning of my boxing career, and I was a little irritated, as you can see in my face. I'm not smiling. That was the look of, oh, that training for 54 seconds? Are you kidding me? Like, your adrenaline's going when you're in the ring. Everyone always asks you, what does it feel like to fight? And it's like, the training is grueling, but when you get in there, you love it. You love every moment of it, and as soon as it's over, you can't wait to do it again. And then you get in training, you're like, oh God, why do I put my body through this? But it's like it's a crazy cycle. But when you're in the ring, like, you want it to last a little bit longer. So I was a little upset by that. Some of my most memorable fights I want to share with you. One of them was with Jackie Frazier, and some of you are probably too young to know the history, but I know some of the adults do. Joe Frazier and my father fought 3 times. This is his daughter. Now, Joe Frazier was the person who became the champ. When my dad got stripped of his titles, when he wouldn't go to the war, Joe Frazier fought for the title, the vacant title, and won it. So my dad used to taunt him, call him all kind of names, say some pretty mean things, actually. And like, you're not the real champ, I'm the real champ, and then you have to fight me to be the real champ. So he got in the ring, and then Joe Frazier beat him, which was big because my father had been undefeated. And, you know, he had many years off. He was kind of rusty. So he beat him. And then they came back, they fought 2 more times, and my dad won. So they had a trilogy. So when I started boxing, I inspired Jackie Frazier to start boxing. So she had some fights under her belt, but I didn't really take her seriously. I was like, oh, you know, she doesn't have a title, she's not a serious boxer, but it made sense for me to fight her business-wise, so I fought her. And Jackie ended up being tough. You know, there I am, gloving it up before the fight, and then we had a tough battle. She was strong and tough, much tougher than I thought she was going to be. Went the distance, and as you can see, I ended up victorious. So the next very memorable fight will be against she wasn't young at the time, but Suzy Taylor, who was a champion. So I said I wanted some titles, so she was the first person whose title I went over. And it was funny because she was someone who, before I started boxing, they would say, that girl's tough. You know, when I was training in the gym, they're like, you don't want to fight her till you're ready, and here I am facing her. And then, of course, I beat her and took her title. So that was a second round stoppage, I think. So, and then, thank you. That's fun. Sounds crazy, I mean, to be talking about knocking people out, but you know, it is boxing, so it's just like kind of what we do. But then look, I fought Christy Martin. Christy Martin is the woman who I showed you that I saw fighting for the first time, so that was surreal to be facing her. And to her credit, Christy was a little smaller than me. We made the weight classes work. I came down a weight, she came up, and then we fought. And, you know, she was tough, though. She actually went like 4 rounds and before I stopped her. So, as you can see, my dad was in the ring with me. And a lot of people throughout my life, they knew that my dad didn't really want me to box, but he always supported me and came to my fights when he could because he did have a disease, so sometimes he wasn't able to make it to all of the fights. But that meant a lot to me, to have him in the arena. It meant a lot to him to hear the crowd chanting, Ali, Ali, every time he came out to sit down, with me. And then every time after a fight, I'd always have cake waiting for me in my dressing room, as you can see. Every time. Look, I love to eat, first of all, and I love sweets. So one thing that I would refrain from is having sweets. So that was the last thing I would look at. Now, it's funny because these dressing rooms back here remind me of the type of rooms that I used to come out of to fight, because I used to fight in arenas like this. And I would look at that cake and I'd be like, I'm coming back in like 2 or 3 rounds. I'm gonna knock this girl out so I could have my cake. That was my motivation. So one day, my father came to my dressing room after like a title fight. I'd won some titles, I was a world champion, and he said, I want to talk to you. And he had a very serious look on his face. And he said, you know what, Laila, I was wrong. Women can fight, and you can fight, and I'm proud of you. And of course, that made me cry. That made me have a moment, because I didn't realize how much that would mean to me for him to say that to me. And then we shared a piece of cake, and we kept it moving. But the funny thing is that next thing I know, he's trying to teach me how to box. Throw your jab like that. I'm like, you're late, Dad. Like, are you really trying to teach me how to box now? So I thought that was really cute that my dad was doing that. So anyway, that's me and Nelson Mandela. So my last fight was in 2007 in South Africa. And I had the opportunity to have Nelson Mandela there, who also was a boxer. Many of you may not know that. He was an amateur boxer, and he was really good. So he came to the fight, and they brought this elaborate chair. He had this special chair. I don't know, it was hand-carved wood. It was beautiful. It was like a king's throne. And they went through all this work to put it in the audience. He was sitting there, and the fight starts, and then I end up winning in a 1-round knockout. And I was like, I'm sorry. I remember saying to him after the fight, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, that I didn't give you a better show. But he was just proud that I won. So that was my last fight. And after I decided to leave boxing, I said, you know what? I really want to do something different, explore my other talents, my passions. I knew that boxing wasn't something that I was going to want to do forever. I reached all of my goals, and I said, I want to start a family. Of course, I had to find a husband, but I had these goals, right? So Dancing with the Stars called. You guys familiar with Dancing with the Stars? I like that section. You guys are hype over there. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. They always, come on now, you guys, get in there. I'm just playing. I'm just joking. I heard you guys were a little rowdy, but I like that because I'm a little rowdy too. So Dancing with the Stars called, and I ended up going on the show and dancing with Max. And he was a tough partner. But we went to the finals. We went to the last, at that time, you get to the finals, and that was the last show. So I came in third, but I felt like I won because I had all this airtime. I had a whole new audience. I was able to show a different side of myself because, as you all know, people sometimes put you in a box, and they label you. So now I'm the boxer, because I was always serious and talking about, it's a little intimidating, hair braided back, grease on your face, ready to fight, talking about knocking people out. That's not very commercial, So I had to show a different side of myself, which I already knew was there. So I went to the finals in Dancing with the Stars, then went ahead and got married. It didn't happen that fast, but I'm just giving you that's Curtis. He's my husband. He used to play in the NFL. He retired. That was another photo, which I'm so happy my dad got to see that day. And then we had our children. I had my first son, well, my only son, Curtis. That's Curtis Jr., little cutie pie. And then that's Sydney, my daughter. And then there's a picture of us currently, as you can see. So after I did that, I had to really start thinking about what can I do that I love like I love boxing, because boxing is hands down my first love, even till this day. So I had to figure out what would sustain me, what would make me happy, what is going to be something that I can be passionate about where it won't feel like work, the same way boxing didn't feel like work. So I started doing some television hosting. I did American Gladiators with Hulk Hogan, but still wasn't really fulfilled. I had all these opportunities coming to me, but I had to say, what am I going to do? So then I figured it out. It's health, fitness, and wellness. That's just I did that ad for milk, and I also did one with my father that I couldn't find, but it was cute. We both had our milk mustaches on. And I ended up doing shows like, I'm just showing you some of the hosting that I've done. Late Night Chef Fight, which was a cooking competition. Are you guys familiar with Chopped on the Food Network? You guys I like Chopped too. So I went on there and won a couple times, and that was important to me because I really wanted to show the world that I was passionate about cooking, and you really have to put that image out there. And that really started me in that space to cultivate, my health and wellness and cooking, because anytime I had the opportunity to talk about food, I talk about healthy food, I talk about whole food. That's me on the Steve Harvey Show, as you can see. And then I started the Laila Ali lifestyle brand, and my brand is all about health, fitness, and wellness. So I have a podcast one. I'm currently working on my second cookbook, which is coming out in January. I'm super excited about. That's my baby. And it's all about whole, fresh food. That's something you guys can appreciate, because I talk about in the book, I don't only give recipes, but I talk about the importance of, starting your own garden, sustainability, eating quality food, because I'm trying to get people to get off all of this processed junk food that's causing a lot of the heart disease and diabetes and health problems that we have, and encouraging people to take control of their health. One of the shows that I'm currently hosting is Homemade Simple, which again is just to drive home my brand, where I'm not only going into people's homes, deserving families that have really great human interest stories, but we're remaking their rooms, but then I actually get in the kitchen with them and cook a healthy meal, all using whole foods, and I also educate them on quality ingredients and things like that. So when I think about my evolution, because it definitely has been an evolution, to go from boxing to hosting. I used to be on TV talking about, oh yeah, I'm gonna knock her out in the first round, to watch me on Homemade Simple. I'm Laila Ali. It's like two different things, So it didn't just happen overnight, and I've learned and I've grown and I've changed, and I think about the topic, right? I think about your theme, I can and we will. And I think, wow, it does have to start with an I, because you first have to find out what your passions are and what you want to do in life and set your goals, right? And you have to fulfill those. And they're going to grow and they're going to change because you're young, just like mine did. But when you learn at a young age about setting goals and reaching them, then that's very, very powerful. And you have to think about what you want your contribution to be. And again, that's going to grow and that's going to change. But when you're at least thinking in that mindset, at the same time doing what makes you happy, and then you're prepared to do the hard work, you've already, trust me, you've already kind of beat half the battle. And then when I think about we will, I think about my father, as he taught me growing up that service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. My father truly believed that being human was all about giving back, helping others. And that's what I love about the FFA, that they're really instilling that in us, because the more that we can realize that we're more alike than we are different and how connected we are, the better the world will be. And I commend all of you for learning at such a young age that you individually have the power to make a change. I'm talking about small changes in your neighborhood, in your community, in your state, in your country, around the world, whatever it is. You have the power to make a change. And a lot of people go through life never knowing that. All they do is think about how to pay their bills, how to put food in their kids' mouths, and that's stressful. So it is hard when you don't have your own situation set up to even start thinking about others. So that's why it's important to fulfill your own dreams, your own goals. And I learned that at a young age too. So again, I just want to say that I have been super excited to come here and actually finally have the chance to speak to you guys, because you guys put a big smile on my face. You guys have already kind of figured a lot of it out, and now all you have to do is just decide what you want to do in life, and that has to be a great feeling. So I want to say thank you so much for letting me come here today and share my story. Thank you! Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy yourselves. Have fun. I see you. Be good. Thank you, guys.
Laila, thank you so much for sharing your message with us this evening. It's incredible through your story that we were able to see that individually we are so capable, but together with those around us, we are able to accomplish so much more.
Exactly.
Thank you for being with us here this evening. We are proud to present to you a photo from 15 years ago when your father, Muhammad Ali, spoke here at the 75th National FFA Convention Expo. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have fun, guys. Thank you. Thank you.